What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another edition of Pistons Daily, where you can find daily content covering all things Detroit Pistons 365 days a year. I'm your host. My name is Kyle Garrison. I'm over on Twitter at Kyle Garrison2, where I talk all things Detroit sports. So head over there, give me comments, questions, concerns, episode ideas. I'd love to hear from all you guys. Also, shout out to everyone who tunes in every single day. The channel is growing at an unbelievable rate, and it is all thanks to you guys. So once again, I really appreciate it. But with that being said, let's jump right into today's video. So the first thing that I wanted to talk about is The Athletic released their way too early NBA power rankings. The Pistons are sitting at 10, and I just want to go over the teams in front of them, the teams behind them, and where I think the Pistons stand. In the top contenders, tier 1, I think this is pretty consensus. They got number 1, the Thunder, number 2, the Knicks, 3, Cleveland, 4, the Timberwolves, 5, the Denver Nuggets. I do think that the Nuggets are probably around 2, in my opinion. I think the Nuggets are the second best team in the entire NBA and have a very good shot of winning it all next year. But I guess, again, those 5, I think anywhere you put them, I think Oklahoma City at number 1 is pretty unanimous among NBA fans and anybody that talks about the NBA. And then those other 4 teams are probably the top 5 teams in the league. You can make a case about the 6th ranked team here, the Houston Rockets. They're a team that has kind of creeped up into those top 5 talks, that top 5 category with the addition of Kevin Durant, surrounding their young core with a veteran elite scoring talent like Durant. Definitely puts them in a tier above, I'd say, a team like the Pistons. And then the LA Clippers at 7. These are all in tier 2, which is in a good place. There's only 3 teams. It's the Clippers, and then they have the Magic. So Rockets, Clippers, and Magic round out tier 2. And then you get into tier 3, which is the bubble, and this is probably the biggest category. That this is the Warriors at 9, Pistons at 10, Lakers 11, Bucks 12, Hawks 13, Grizzlies 14, Pacers 15, Celtics 16, 76ers at 17, the Heat at 18, 19 Mavericks, 20 Spurs. So the Athletic believes that the Pistons are the 10th best team going into next season. They believe that they are in tier 3 right on the bubble. And I tend to agree that 10 is pretty fair. I'd say the Pistons could be anywhere from 8 to 15. I do believe that the Clippers and the Rockets, because they kind of are going all in right now, are better, quote unquote, than the Pistons on paper at least. But I think the Magic is a team that you could really make the case for the Pistons being better than. And I get it. You add Desmond Bane, an elite scorer, elite scoring talent. Spaces the floor, has been an unbelievable three-point shooter in his career. So I understand he's a very good player, very good addition. The NBA media values additions much more than just building through a young core like the Pistons have. So I get it. It's a flashy move. It's one of the biggest moves of the offseason. They're propelled up to 8. Whatever, it's not the biggest deal in the world to me. I do think, though, that the Pistons have a chance to be better than the Magic, and here's why. 1, they're great defensively. Orlando was unbelievable defensively last year, but was the 27th ranked team in offensive efficiency last year, ahead of only Brooklyn, Charlotte, and Washington, who all 3 of those teams were in absolute tank mode for very long stretches last year. So the Magic have very big problems offensively. Does bringing in Desmond Bane completely fix those? I don't think so. I think there's still going to be some question marks surrounding where they're going to find floor spacing, how they're going to surround guys like Paolo Banchero and Franz Wagner with consistent knockdown three-point shooting. Adding Desmond Bane, like I said, very good. It's going to help them, definitely, but I still think the Pistons overall as a team, they've got a better coaching staff. They're more consistent on both ends of the floor. They've got a better front office overall. They've got a better young core, and they're in a very similar spot to the Magic. But we saw last year the Pistons made a very big leap from being one of the worst teams in the league to being one of the better Eastern Conference teams. And the Magic kind of had a little bit of a fall off from 2023 to 2024. And I do believe the Pistons are a better team heading into next year. We're splitting hairs here, though, and we're splitting hairs again when I talk about the Warriors. I think the Magic are better than the Warriors for sure, but I think the Pistons are better than the Warriors. I get it, the championship pedigree. You got Jimmy Butler. You got Stephen Curry. You've got Draymond Green. A lot of proven veteran guys in this league, and they're kind of all in. They've only got so many years left around this core that they've been building for the last 10 plus years, and it's, things are going to go downhill from here for them. I think the Pistons are in a better spot long term, and so to have them one spot above the Pistons going into next year, whatever, so be it. Not the end of the world overall. But like I said, I think the Pistons could be anywhere from 8 to 15. There's some really good teams around them. Like I mentioned, the Bucks and the Lakers and the Hawks and the Grizzlies and the Celtics and the Pacers are all behind the Pistons. So you can make a case for all those teams to be ahead of the Pistons as well. We're just going to have to see. Hindsight's 2020, and it's just an interesting conversation to have overall, especially when you're looking at teams like the Magic and the Warriors and the Bucks, who have traditionally been better than the Pistons over the last couple of years, but now with Detroit's young core kind of stepping in how we expected them to, things are starting to look a lot different. So shout out the Athletic for giving the Pistons their much deserved flowers and putting them in a pretty respectable spot going into next year. But let me know in the comments or over on Twitter at Kyle Garrison too if you think the Pistons are the 10th best team in the NBA, if you'd have them higher, if you'd have them lower, or just your overall thoughts on the Athletics' way too early power rankings. But moving on, I wanted to discuss Keith Smith. He released his NBA Summer League notes, and for the Pistons, he was able to sit down with an anonymous NBA exec from the Pistons, had a conversation with him, picked his brain on just different things surrounding the Pistons roster. And I just want to read off the 3 bullet points. One, on the roster movement this offseason, it's no secret we had to pivot, right? But we feel really good about what we were able to do. A Pistons front office executive said, Karis LeVert is going to be huge for us because he can score and he can be a primary playmaker too. Duncan Robinson's shooting is something we had to have. We think we've got guys around him who can set him up even more than he was in Miami the last couple of years. And then on Ron Holland II, oh man, yes, be honest with me. Did you see a better player out here in Las Vegas than Ron Holland? A Pistons front office executive asked. If you say you did, you better be ready for an argument. Ron was so good. We said it when we drafted him that we feel like we've got one of the best players in the draft. As a rookie, he just got better every single day. Now he's going to break out and have an incredible season. The jumper and the free throw shooting, those are real. Big year coming for Ron. And then the final bullet point on extension talks with Jalen Duren and Jaden Ivey. Those guys are key guys for us. We're not the cap space Pistons anymore. We're the playoff Pistons now. If we want to keep being the playoff Pistons, we need to be really smart from here on out, a Pistons front office executive said. That means finding the right deal for us and our players, but we love the way both Jalen and Jaden have developed. Look, if we had Jaden last year, we win our first playoff series in forever. We believe that 100%. We're hopeful we can get extensions done with both of those guys to keep them in Detroit for a long time. So, Jaden Ivey's impact on the Knicks series, we haven't really talked about it too much on the channel just because I know it's a hypothetical. I don't want to bring up the past. We lost the series. It was simple as that. But a front office executive kind of pointing that out, it makes me kind of want to discuss why I think he might have been right. Again, hindsight's 2020, so this is all obviously hypothetical, and there's just really no way to test this out. But this is just my overall opinion. And if you're looking at the guards that the Pistons ran in the playoffs last year, Tim Hardaway Jr. in games 3 through 6, so a 4-game sample size, played 36, 37, 34, and 33 minutes. As much as he helped this team all year, he was able to, play some good defense, knock down some shots, take some charge, kind of was an energy guy. At this stage of his career, he's not a 30-plus minute per game guy in the playoffs. He's just not. There's no way that if Jaden Ivey's healthy, Tim Hardaway Jr. gets that amount of playing time. If Jaden Ivey's in, those off-ball 2-guard minutes go to him, and we see this firsthand. Jaden Ivey is unbelievable off-ball. I mean, he was so good next to Cade Cunningham in a 30-game sample size before he got hurt, and he was easily this team's best second scoring option. So in the playoffs, there would have been a lot of time where Jaden Ivey was that second option. He would have been that number 2 guard, and he was great off ball. Was shooting 40% from 3. Was shooting at a higher clip from 3-point range than Tim Hardaway Jr. as well. So I think that kind of diminishes Tim Hardaway Jr.'s role a little bit. He comes off the bench. Maybe he is another second unit guy that the Pistons could have utilized as well. I think Jaden Ivey, obviously, in that starting rotation, gives you much more overall upside than Tim Hardaway Jr., especially on the offensive end. And then you look at Malik Beasley. The Malik Beasley catch and shoot automatic shot games we saw in the playoffs where he literally did not swing the ball once would turn into, if Jaden Ivey's there, would turn into him catching and having the option to shoot, pass, drive, kick out, call for a ball screen, run a set. The list goes on. There's so many different variations to the offense that Jaden Ivey brings to the table that Malik Beasley, when he was in there, he just really didn't. It was when he caught the ball and he got his feet set, he was firing. And last year in the playoffs, he wasn't great. I think he shot around 33% from three, which was down from his regular season total. So I think that having Tim Hardaway Jr. and Malik Beasley out there just wasn't enough. But if you had Jaden Ivey, it gives you a completely different look offensively. And I think that the Pistons would have been much better off, at least in the playoffs, and would have had a way better chance to actually win the series. They might not have won it, but would have been more competitive and could have gone to 7 games, or the Pistons could have won it in 6 games. Who knows? Again, it's all hypothetical, all speculation. But let me know in the comments if you think Jaden Ivey's presence in the playoffs last year could have pushed the Pistons to their first playoff series win since 2008, or do you think it's all just smoke and all just hypothetical scenarios that we're looking back on now that the series is over and there's no way to actually test it out? But let me know down in the comments below. But moving on, I wanted to continue to touch on some of the things that Keith Smith talked about in his Summer League notes. And like I mentioned, he talked about Ron Holland. And he talked about him showing out in Summer League and how high the Pistons are on him. I talked about it yesterday. This is Trajan Langdon's first-round draft pick. And I'm sure as much as we are, he is very, very excited and banking on Ron Holland to pan out and be a piece of this young core going forward. And I'm confident in Ron too. I think that was a great draft pick at the number 5 spot. Trajan Langdon kind of got the short end of the stick coming in and just automatically getting the worst possible pick the Pistons could have had. They had the number 1 odds at the number 1 pick, fell to 5. Still got a great player in Ron Holland, and I'm very excited to see what he can do. You're looking at the other top players in the draft, and they're all project guys. Zachariah Risashar, he was very good, but still a project guy. Stephon Castle, very good, but still a lot of question marks around him. Alex Sarr as well. Reed Shepherd, we saw him in the Summer League, was not great. So the fact that the Pistons got Ron Holland at 5, and he's showing the increase in production, the front office is all in. Everybody around him is looking for him to succeed, and they're trying to put him in the best positions to succeed. I'm very excited for what he brings to the table. I think he'll come off the bench, but there's a lot of times that he could close out games as well for the Pistons if they need him to, if Asar Thompson gets in foul trouble, or if they just want a different look overall with Ron Holland on the floor. But again, if the drum shot can translate like we saw from Summer League, it's going to open up a ton of different lineups that the Pistons can use. You can have Asar Thompson and Ron Holland out there. You can do Jalen Duren and Ron Holland out there. And there's not going to be as many times where you have multiple non-shooters on the floor like we saw last year. So again, I love what we saw from Ron in the Summer League. He showed the willingness to improve on different parts of his game that he wasn't quite comfortable with. We didn't just see him try and put up points and try and get downhill at will. He was trying to score from different levels. He was trying to pass the ball. He was working on his ball handling. He was working on his shooting from deep, his defense, and just other parts of his game, cutting off ball, screening better, just the little things that affect winning instead of just working on driving downhill. We know he can do that. We know he can finish at the rim. We got to see those other parts of his game kind of pan out, and that's what we saw in the Summer League. So I get it. I understand why the anonymous NBA executive or the anonymous Pistons executive is very high on Ron Holland, because as they should be. He's going to be a great talent, and year 2 should be very, very exciting. But before we wrap things up here, I just wanted to touch on Dennis Jenkins. I know that there's been a lot of discourse. I've talked about him. There's been other Pistons media members that have talked about him as well as somebody that could have a roster spot for this team. And I do think that is going to be the case. He had an unbelievable summer. And I've said this before, there are plenty of other teams around the NBA that could use his services. There's a lot of teams that need backup point guards right now. There's a lot of teams that need starting point guards right now. So fortunately for the Pistons, he's a hot commodity, but they extended him a qualifying offer which makes him a restricted free agent this year. This essentially means that the Pistons can just match any offer that Danis gets and retain him on a two-way contract like they had him on last year. And as of right now, obviously, Danis hasn't accepted that qualifying offer. I'm assuming because he wants to test the market, see if someone else will offer him a decent amount of money. In either way, he'll get that amount because he'll either be on a new team or the Pistons will match it. So he's kind of holding out on that. I get it. I understand. But I think he could be a guy that the Pistons have on a two-way deal, and also a guy that could be get rotational minutes if there are injuries. He's just a great depth piece to have. He was unbelievable as a true point guard in the summer league, and I kind of would love to see the Pistons retain him. So I'm glad they offered him the qualifying offer. And I'm a big proponent of having guard depth, especially after Jaden Ivey's injury last year. If another injury like that happens, you might not have the luxury of going out and getting Dennis Schroeder like the Pistons did at last year's trade deadline. So I think that Dennis Jenkins could be a guy who plays some G League minutes, also is up on the 15-man roster as well, gives you minutes if there's injuries, if you want a new look. If Jaden Ivey, like I've talked about, isn't really panning out at that backup point guard position, if you want Karis LeVert to be more off ball, maybe you give Dennis Jenkins 8 to 10 minutes later on in the season just to see what he can give you. If not, then stash him in the G League, let him kind of run the show there, let him develop Chaz Lanier, or at least have a hand in developing Chaz Lanier, being his point guard and allowing Chaz to thrive off ball. That could be something that brings value to the Pistons going forward. So there's a lot of reasons why the Pistons offered that qualifying offer, and I'm just very happy the front office did that. I think that's a very good decision. He was an undrafted free agent, and he's really turning out to be a diamond in the rough. So let me know what you guys think of Dennis Jenkins. Will he come back on that qualifying offer? And what are your thoughts overall on what he brings to the table and kind of what you vision his role on this team going forward? But that's all I've got for you guys today. Let me know in the comments or over on Twitter your thoughts on the Athletics power rankings, having the Pistons at 10. Also, if you think the Pistons win the series versus New York last year with a healthy Jaden Ivey. And also just what your expectations are for Ron Holland going forward. As always, like, subscribe, comment, turn on post notifications, and follow me on Twitter at Kyle Garrison 2. Also, head over to Spotify, leave a review, leave a follow if you can. That would be much appreciated. Once again, thank you all so much for tuning in every single day. With that being said, that is going to do it here for episode 33 of Pistons Daily, and I will catch you all next time.